Really, the goal of this webinar is to cover some of the main things that sellers can do to either get their first sales, or just in general, all of these things are going to be applicable to getting your first sales and then growing sales thereafter. So for this is for both new and existing sellers. If you have account related questions, or if you have very specific questions, seller support is probably going to be a better resource for you, which you can reach through Seller Central by going to the help section and then selecting the contact us. You can contact seller support through either chat, phone, or email. But this is really focused on all of the tools and resources available to you, get started, grow your business. First and foremost, getting started and growing sales, it takes a combination of best practices, self-education, trial and error, and patience. What works for some people isn't always going to work for the next. So it's really about figuring out what worked for your products, testing what's available to you, and really finding out all the resources that are out there, and then trying them, making sure you figure out what works best for your business. So there are five, I call them the five pillars to getting your first sales, but also growing sales and really getting momentum with your business. And we're going to go into each one of these a little bit more in detail. So if you haven't listed products yet, or you haven't had sales yet, or you're unsure where your products fit and the categories they fit in, every single person lists on Handmade. If you haven't already, familiarize yourself with the shop. Go on to Amazon.com and then go up into the category picker right on the left-hand side of the search bar. Go down to Handmade, select Handmade, and then get to know our shop. Understand how our products are categorized, how other people categorize, and just get to know the store that you're listing in. And I think that will help answer a lot of questions about where should you list your products, and how, and just a very good tool for being successful on Handmade. First, we're going to go into perfecting the product detail page. So once a customer clicks on your product, they're going to come to this page. So this is your product detail page, and this is really where you showcase and kind of sell your product to your customer. You've got your title up there in the corner, which we'll get into more details as well. You've got your image of your product, and then you've got your description below. And if you scroll down, more details. Also on the right side, you can see your SMP, or seller marketing profile, which people can click into. But this is really your page and your opportunity to talk about your products and really showcase your products. So this is what it looks like on the back end when you're listing your product. I've got a ton of questions and a ton of feedback about titles. So titles, many people are familiar with selling on Etsy. Handmade is actually set up differently. Although you may see titles that show up towards the top of search, it's not the title that's getting them up there. A lot of times you may see titles that have backslashes or commas and then synonyms or repetitive words. That's really not how Handmade is set up. So when you're creating a title, the best advice that I usually give to sellers is close your eyes and describe your product with simple, short, but descriptive words. So if you were closing your eyes, you could visualize the product, and you could click on the product and know what you're clicking without actually seeing the image of the product. So that is the best way you can create your titles. Also, our search doesn't recognize commas and synonyms or other words or repetitive phrases. Save those for your keywords and your search terms, which we'll get into as we continue. Your product description. So again, this is kind of like your title. Close your eyes and think about all of the details of your products. You want to describe your product in many different ways. So we do have another area for describing how your products are made, but you can incorporate that in your product description. But really, your product description is telling all of the unique details and really bringing out what you can't feel and touch and see in the picture, and really describing that important details. And then you'll save the rest for additional info, and that's when you'll get into keywords, search terms, and really the discoverability of it. So number two, and one of the most important things, is product images. They're your first impression on customers, and when you're looking at a list, when you're scrolling down a page of products, your product image is your first and best chance at capturing a customer's attention. So making sure that they're in a well-lit, simple background. So this image right here, it has pure white background. Not every image has to have a pure white background, but in general, you want to make sure that your product takes up about 80% of the screen, and that it's in a well-lit environment, and that it's clear, that you can tell that that's the product and it's not on a distracting background. And then also make sure add as many images as you can from different angles, so that way when the customers receive your products, they really know what they're getting. They know what to expect. They're not surprised by anything. So the more product images that you can add, and you don't have to be a professional photographer, but just make sure that you show your images in their best light and their truest representation, and that'll go a long way for bringing people into your page and clicking on your product items, and then also buying them. Number three is optimizing for search. So if you didn't already know, the number one way that people find products on Amazon and Handmade is search. They use the search bar. So your products can be found from just Amazon.com. Your products can be found on Handmade through the normal search, or if you go in and you actually navigate to the Handmade section, those are all different ways you can search and find those products. Making sure that your product is set up and give it the best chance it has of being found, there's a few things that you want to do. So as I mentioned earlier, when you're listing your product, when you go into the additional info tab, this is where you can add details like how your products are made. When you're genuinely handcrafting something, talking about how they're made, giving them that context of what you're doing to really build your products. That's a good place to put this in the additional info tab. So if you were to actually scroll down this page, there is a ton of fields, and the more fields that you can fill out, the better chances your products are going to have of getting found. So making sure that you have occasion types filled out, making sure that your style, color, size, and weight are all accounted for, because those are going to be really important for making sure that your products get found. So when you scroll down the page, you'll get the search terms. These are also known as keywords, and these are super important for search. So as I mentioned in your title, avoid using repetitive words, and really save those for here. This is a unique place where you can put in keywords for all words, terms, and searches that relate to your products. And Amazon's unique in a way that you don't use commas. Some people do use commas because it helps them kind of categorize, but Amazon search actually doesn't recognize commas in these fields. So you can use individual words. Amazon does account for different permutations, so misspelled words or pluralizations. Amazon accounts for that, so you don't actually have to use those here. But you can use search term phrases, and when you're doing that, you want to put those in the most logical order. For example, somebody's more likely to search for brown coffee mug rather than coffee mug brown. So just putting them in the most logical order, and then you can use I believe it's up to about 250 characters, and then you just want to use as many words as you can. And there are third-party tools that you can find through searching on the internet that can help you generate keywords. Just make sure you don't use any keywords that misrepresent your product, or and it is against policy to use competitors' names, but this is important that you really get this right. Next is customer reviews. So this is a big point for getting your first sale, and can often be one of the biggest blockers for people that haven't had a sale and they don't know why. So if, let's say that you've got your imagery nailed down and you're on top of it, you've got your search terms all dialed in, you've got everything set up, but you're still not seeing sales. So one of the biggest things, if you've ever shopped on Amazon or you're an Amazon customer, you know how important the reviews are. A product can look amazing, have a great description, great imagery, but the reviews are really going to give you that outside perspective to tell you, is this product what it says it is? And so that's why it's important to get customer reviews. So this is a unique situation. If you followed all of those steps but you don't have any customer reviews, how do you get customer reviews? Amazon actually allows they allow for any customer through any channel to provide a review on products on Amazon. For example, if you sold a product to somebody at a craft fair or any other channel, they can actually review your product or any other product on Amazon despite having not purchased that product. Now, it's important to mention that you're familiar with their community guidelines, but it's against Amazon policy to solicit biased feedback. So you can't ask customers to leave a positive review, but you can let customers know that your products are available on Amazon and asking them to leave a non-biased review, because that really takes away the integrity and so much of what's important about making sure that customers make informed purchasing decisions. Genuine feedback, but you can have anybody from anywhere can review products on Amazon. That gives you the opportunity to get a review despite not having made a sale on Handmade, which can really make a big difference. Like I mentioned, if you have everything else dialed in but you don't have the reviews, it can be a big blocker for getting your first sales or just sales on new products. Okay, the next topic that I'm going to go into is sponsored products. Actually, I recently did a call down to about 25 of our top sellers that have seen huge success on Amazon and specifically Handmade. And I called them and I interviewed them to really find out what are some of the biggest things that they can do. And everything that I've gone over so far has been included in things that they cited. But one of the most consistent things that I heard was about sponsored products, and that's pay-per-click advertising that you can do on Amazon. So when you do pay-per-click advertising, I want to first note that one of the most common misconceptions is that you have to have a bunch of money to invest and you have to have a bunch of time to really optimize your campaigns to get started with this. But in reality, the majority of the sellers that I interviewed and talked to said they got their first sale using sponsored products, because it'll let you know when you've gotten a sale directly contributed to your advertisements. They got their first sale, some of them with spending only pennies. So there is a common misconception about the amount of time and investment that it takes to get started on sponsored products. You can actually set up your first campaign in less than 5 minutes, and it's usually significantly less than you expect. So here are a few examples of places where sponsored products can show up. So once you create a campaign, which I'll actually get into briefly how to set up a campaign, but these are a few areas that your products can show up. So at the very top of search, so when somebody's searching for a product similar to yours, you can show up in the very top of your of the search. You can also show up at the very bottom of the search. You can also show up on related product detail page. So if somebody has similar products to yours, you can show up on their page in kind of the similar sponsored products related to this item. So those are the three primary areas you can show up when you're doing these pay-per-click advertisements. And keep in mind, with sponsored products, you only pay per click, and you get to set your dollar amount, but you only pay per click when somebody actually goes to your product detail page. So this is how you get started with sponsored products. From Seller Central, when you open up Create a Campaign, this is how you set up your first campaign. It literally takes only a couple minutes. So number one, give your campaign a name. Make sure it's something that you're going to remember and recognize if you have multiple products. So give it something that you'll recognize, give it a name, set an average daily budget. So a common misconception here is whatever number you put in here is how much you're going to spend every day. That's not true. You can set a daily budget of 50, but since you're only paying per click, you're only going to pay when somebody clicks to your advertisement. So there's a good chance your daily maximum budget could be $50. However, you only get 20 clicks to your product page. Your default bid is 10 cents. You're only going to pay $2 a day. So daily budget is not what you will spend, it's just what you're willing to spend if everything goes right. Next, select a start and end date. We recommend generally leaving the end date open just so you don't miss out on any opportunities. At any time, you can come in, you can pause the campaign so you're not spending any more money if it's not working out for you. This is a super easy tool to use and manage and monitor. And then next is selecting your targeting type. So this is where it really makes the difference. Almost everybody that I know started with automatic targeting. This allows Amazon to really do the work for you. They look at products similar to yours, they base off of your keywords, and they do this automatic targeting, which really helps people get started, and which makes takes the heavy lifting off of figuring out how to set up your campaign, which keywords you want to use. And then after you do that, at the end of this, I'll provide more materials on where you can go to get additional resources. But then once you've really optimized and figured out automatic targeting, Amazon is very transparent with your metrics, what keywords people are clicking on. So they'll provide all of that to you when you're using automatic targeting, and then you can use that to create your own manual targeting. So it's super helpful, and Amazon is super transparent about what you're paying for, what people are clicking on, and how they're getting to your page. So next, after you've gone through that information, you've selected the targeting, give it a name. This is where you're going to select the products basically that you want to include in your campaign. So this is your ad group. So basically your collection of products you want to add. Give it a name, again, something that you'll recognize that relates to the specific set of products you're going to select here. Next, you'll set your default bid. So that is the price that you are willing to pay for somebody to click on your product and come to your detail page. Amazon will give you a suggested minimum. So based off of your product, your category, keywords, based off of all of this, it'll give you a suggested minimum. We recommend at least going with the suggested minimum, if not higher, and it's typically really reasonable. And like I said, at any time you can pause your campaign, you can adjust your bid, but your default bid is what you're willing to pay per click to your detail page. And then next, this is where you'll go through and you're going to actually select the products you want to advertise. So you can either search by the name, you can put an ASIN, or you can just manually go through and select your products from the scroll down. So that's really sponsored products. Again, I recommend if you followed all the steps that I went through at the beginning, getting sponsored products is a really great way to go, because basically the way search works and the way products are found on Amazon is a combination of sales, traffic to your product detail page, reviews. All of those play together on where you come up in search rankings. And so if sponsored products is a great way to jumpstart the velocity and the traffic to any product, as long as you've got all of your bases covered that I talked about earlier. And last that I'm going to go into and touch on briefly, because we actually have an existing recorded webinar that I'll provide links to after this if you're interested in getting set up on Fulfillment by Amazon, or FBA. So that's really FBA, or Fulfillment by Amazon, is getting your products Prime. So for any of you shoppers on Amazon that have ever shopped, or your Prime members, you know the importance of having that Prime badge next to your products. Prime customers love Prime products because they love the quick, free 2-day shipping. I do want to caveat, so this isn't necessarily for customized products. We don't at this time really support customized products. Now, if you have slight variations like size and color, we recommend sending in some of your best sellers. However, if you do have one of a kind or highly customized or personalized items, FBA probably isn't the best idea for you. However, if you do have replicable designs or products, The way the FBA works is you take those products, you individually package them, and then you send them into our fulfillment center. Once they're arrived there, anytime a customer purchases your product, Amazon will pick, pack, and ship your product. Amazon will cover the cost of free 2-day shipping wherever they are within the US or the country that you have set up FBA with. They'll also handle customer returns, customer service, and Amazon really takes over once those products get there. You can see one of previously recorded webinars where we go through and I actually walk through setting up your products and how to get them in there. People always have questions about barcodes, and we address all of those questions in the webinar. And so I'll share that link out afterwards. But really, this is what FBA is. And the number one thing that I've heard from sellers that are able to use FBA is this has been the biggest impact on their business because it takes away so much of the kind of the painful part of the business, fulfilling each order, shipping each order. It takes that fulfillment off of your hands and allows you to focus more time doing what you love, creating, designing, and building your business.